มสาระความรู้ก่อนใครได้ที่ RSU WisdomTV ทางระบบทีวีดาวเทียมหรือผ่านแอปพลิเคชัน RSU WisdomTV ดาวน์โหลดแอปพลิเคชันได้ที่ Google Play และ App Store
Sawadika, hello and welcome to ASEAN Challenge, the show to give you the latest hot topics, headlines and updates happening around your ASEAN community in two languages, Thai and English. I'm Rosalind Tepawan.
ค่ะ and I am Alisa สิทธิวงศ์ขอต้อนรับคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านเข้าสู่ ASEAN Challenge ค่ะข่าวสารเกี่ยวกับอาเซียนทั้งภาษาอังกฤษและภาษาไทยค่ะ
And kickstarting the show off with some updates happening around ASEAN around us here, taking a look at what's happening in the Maldives for people who love to explore underwater terrain.
I've never actually been to the Maldives, but it's one of my dream destinations to go to. But yes, of course, we're talking about the Maldives, and they are constructing what is considered as the largest under-the-sea restaurant.
Right, so for people who love the sea life and aquatics, but also love food.
Of course.
Well, there you go. You can see a combination of the two happening now in the Maldives. The Maldives is actually the first country in the world to have an underwater restaurant, they said.
That's right, but this is not the first one that has been built in the Maldives. There was one that was built in 2005, but this one is going to be considered as the largest one, and this one will be opened in November.
Right, and what makes this one special is not only is it the top of the art, the whole restaurant itself was conducted and constructed all together in New Zealand. Actually, before it was delivered all the way from New Zealand to the Maldives by different methods of logistics. It took altogether 12 months to plan the entire delivery. But altogether, after that difficult process, the restaurant itself was able to be delivered by boat to the Maldives and then plunged underwater here. It's quite small though, you could see.
Yes.
A room for 24 guests altogether.
That's right. So this one is called 5.8. That's the name of the restaurant, which the name actually comes from how deep the restaurant is located. So this restaurant is located 5.8 meters below the lagoon, or approximately 18 feet. And this restaurant will be located in a resort, which is also due to be opened in November, in which is a 5-star or like a nice, very luxurious resort and spa called Horawali Island Resort.
Not to mention the chef is also a very well-known executive chef here, Shannon Batten, who's cooked for people like Bill Clinton, British royals Rod Stewart, and even the Rolling Stones and the foreign heads of states in many countries. So the cuisine is probably going to be a surprise as of the moment, but altogether you could see how amazing it looks with the dome itself being made from resin and a beautiful view.
That's right. So the structure itself, as we did see in the pictures or in the video there, it was a steel structure with an acrylic dome, as mentioned, able to seat not too many people. So that, of course, is something to look forward to. One of the largest, even though it's only being able to seat 24 seats.
Right.
ก็คือในส่วนของ ASEAN Around Us นะคะเราก็มาดูในส่วนของภัตตาคารค่ะใต้ทะเลที่ถือว่าใหญ่ที่สุดก็จะอยู่ที่มาลดีฟนั่นเองค่ะก็จะเปิดให้บริการในช่วงเดือนพฤศจิกายนนี้ค่ะซึ่งร้านนี้นะคะก็มีชื่อว่า 5.8 นั่นเองที่มาของชื่อนี้ค่ะก็คือความลึกของตัวภัตตาคารนี้นะคะที่จะมีความลึก 5.8 เมตรนั่นเองหรือประมาณ 18 ฟุต
เพราะฉะนั้น you have to go ahead and make reservations in advance because it's sure to be booked to full to the brim. There you go. So the latest coming from the world's biggest underwater aquarium style restaurant with a one kind of experience, lifetime experience.
That's right, definitely something to try out especially if you plan to go to the Maldives.
There you go. So some food for thought right there. And with that, we take a short break. Coming back, ASEAN hot issues up ahead. Stay tuned.
พักกันสักครู่ค่ะ
Welcome back to the show into ASEAN hot issues. Lots of highlights and hot topics coming up all around your ASEAN block this week. Starting off with things happening in Myanmar.
ใช่แล้วค่ะ so เรามาดูกันในส่วนของข่าวสารต่างๆนะคะในทวีปอาเซียนค่ะซึ่งเราจะเริ่มกันที่ประเทศเมียนมานั่นเองค่ะ
Right, with Myanmar quickly developing fast and also in its transition period to a new government, Aung San Suu Kyi is definitely making a lot of waves around the ASEAN community, soon to visit Thailand as well. But so far, in updates concerning sensitive topics like the ethnic minorities, especially the Rohingya they call, the Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi has come out to tell a UN special rapporteur that on human rights that the government will actually now avoid calling this ethnic minority group Rohingya because of the sensitivities involved in the group's persecution and also executions and severe restrictions that the country has seen over the past several years.
ค่ะมาดูกันในส่วนของข่าวแรกค่ะที่ทางองซานซูจีค่ะก็ได้ออกมาย้ำกับ UN ค่ะว่าเราอย่ามาใช้คำว่าโรฮิงญาดีกว่านะคะเพราะว่าจะเป็นการแบ่งแยกระหว่างชาวมุสลิมกับชาวพุทธของประเทศเมียนมานั่นเองค่ะ
Right, altogether there are 1.1 million members of this group who identify themselves by the term Rohingya, but in the country that's considered quite divisive in religion and who see the group itself as a group of illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, they consider this term quite divisive. So according to Aung San Suu Kyi, she explained to the rapporteur and the representative that controversial terms for the government should altogether be avoided. But Aung San Suu Kyi herself has been criticized by the international community to some extent as well, saying that so far she's done quite little for the group and little to solve the problems of abuses faced by the Rohingya.
ใช่แล้วค่ะทั้งนี้นะคะชาวมุสลิมก็มีทั้งหมด 1.1 ล้านคนนะคะที่ระบุตนเองเป็นชาวโรฮิงญาซึ่งมีชีวิตอยู่ในสภาพที่เหมือนถูกแบ่งแยกอย่างที่บอกไปอะค่ะโดยถูกชาวพุทธในเมียนมาจำนวนมากก็มองว่าเป็นผู้อพยพแบบผิดกฎหมายจากประเทศบังกลาเทศค่ะ
Right, this group has been persecuted for many years now. For example, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights had come out to say that this group had been excluded from a number of professions. They have difficulty finding work. They need special paperwork to access hospitals. And also, this paperwork procedure leads to problems and delays in health checks, leading to deaths during childbirth, for example, and much more. So the UN Commissioner said that at this rate, if it continues, this is considered a violation of human rights and a crime against humanity.
That's right, and at the moment now, some 120,000 Rohingya remain displaced in squalid camps since fighting erupted states between Buddhists and Muslims in 2012, and at the moment now thousands have also fled persecution and poverty.
Indeed, so Myanmar has quite a challenge ahead because first to recognize the group and to give them the human rights they need, it has to start with the government constitution, for example. According to the UN Commissioner, he said the government has all in all inherited a situation where the limitations of laws and policies have been in place that are designed to deny the fundamental rights to these minorities. So this leads to impunity for various violations against human rights. So it all must start from laws and regulations, to which the current government, headed by Aung San Suu Kyi de facto as its de facto leader, has formed a committee now to bring peace and development to the state. But the steps and the details are still unclear.
That's right, so we'll keep you updated on this news update.
Right indeed, as it continues to unfold.
That's right.
Meanwhile, we go from Myanmar over to some developments concerning the MH370 crash that occurred 2 years ago in March 2014.
As we remember that was one of the devastating flights that disappeared off of the radar 2 years ago, as mentioned. Well, recently there have been some luggage in which has been found off the coast of an island and in which they believe might actually belong to some of the passengers on the MH370.
So there have been photos that have come out of various pieces that have been discovered along the beaches as well, such as purses. An Angry Birds pencil case has been discovered on the beach as well. This has been released by a non-profit organization called Air Crash Support Group Australia. And other items, as you mentioned earlier, like luggage as well, have been discovered. A lot of it has been found by, you could say, a volunteer, Blaine Gibson, who found items along the Riek Beach on the Nosy Boraha Island off of the northeastern coast of Madagascar. He's been combing that strip for the past year now to find some parts and pieces, evidence left from the plane.
So there have been a total of about 20 discovered items that have been found here. Nevertheless, of course, he also told the BBC, however, that it might not be absolutely sure if these luggages or items actually belong to passengers of MH370. It could have fallen off of a ship. Nonetheless, all of these luggages didn't have any name tags to them, so what they're going to have to do is show them to the relatives of the passengers that were missing on MH370 to see whether or not they actually belong to them.
Right, indeed. So hopefully they'll be able to recognize those pieces. But for sure, he said that this piece that he's holding right here that says "No Step," right there, that metal gray stamped piece there, they said was almost certainly part of the missing plane. But otherwise, other debris continues to be investigated.
ค่ะในส่วนของอาเซียนฮอตอิชชูข่าวที่2ค่ะก็มีการเผยภาพสัมภาระส่วนตัวที่ได้เกยชายทะเลทางมาดากัสการ์นั่นเองค่ะซึ่งเชื่อว่าอาจจะเป็นของผู้โดยสาร MH370 นั่นเองมีทั้งหมดประมาณ20กว่าชิ้นที่ได้ค้นพบขึ้นมานะคะแต่ว่าคราวนี้ก็คนที่พบค่ะนายเบลนกิฟสันก็คือซึ่งเป็นทนายความชาวอเมริกันค่ะก็ได้บอกว่าอาจจะไม่ได้เป็นของผู้โดยสาร MH370 ก็ได้อาจจะตกลงมาจากเรือก็ได้
Indeed. So the investigation continues still 2 years later, and we'll keep you posted on more developments and discoveries along the beaches of various locations. And that said, moving to another similar note though, still on the sea and in the beachfront, some updates concerning the South China Sea dispute this time, with the latest dispute concerning China and Indonesia here. China has come out to respond harshly to Indonesia's recent fire upon a Chinese fishing vessel for alleged accusals of fishing illegally, but apparently there was one injury reported as well.
That's right. So this condemnation occurred on Monday, June the 20th, and in which what happened was China was condemning the Indonesian boats for firing at the Chinese vessels, and in which, of course, Indonesia's Navy had responded to that, saying that the fires were warning shots to several boats with Chinese flags in which had accusedly been illegally fishing around the areas, but however they said that there were no injuries involved.
Right, indeed. And so far, it seems this is the third reported confrontation near that same area, the Natuna Islands, in this past year, and it comes amid regional tensions that are still escalating in the South China Sea dispute. But altogether, Indonesia is not really part of a broader dispute between the South China Sea and China's reclamation activities in that particular area. But now the dispute involves Indonesia directly. But altogether, in response to China's response here, Indonesia is seeking advice from legal experts on the matter on how to properly respond to China's condemnation.
ค่ะในส่วนของข่าวที่3นะคะทางกระทรวงการต่างประเทศของจีนค่ะได้ออกมาแถลงการก็มีการประท้วงในกรณีที่กองทัพอินโดนีเซียค่ะยิงเรือประมงจีนแล้วก็จับลูกเรือด้วยแล้วก็บอกว่ามีการบาดเจ็บ1คนด้วยนะคะทั้งหมดนี้ก็มีการควบคุมตัวลูกเรือทั้งหมด7คนนะคะแล้วก็อย่างที่ทราบกันว่ามี1คนได้รับการบาดเจ็บด้วย
Right, indeed. So China has taken a step back actually here and said that Indonesia is not involved in the dispute, and China says it does not dispute Indonesia's sovereignty over the islands itself, but China has the rights to go and operate in the waters and fish there. So it seems that the challenge continues in the South China Sea.
Nevertheless, there is continuing dispute about the South China Sea ongoing as we speak anyways, so that's something that is currently trying to be solved in peaceful manners, of course.
Indeed.
And we'll need to stay updated on how that
unfolds. Indeed, and we'll keep you posted. Meanwhile, still in Indonesia though, some other updates as we are entering the monsoon season and the rainy season all around ASEAN. It seems different countries are reeling from the impact of rain.
So not only is Thailand, as we've seen recent flooding and lots of rain recently, also in Indonesia there has been a lot of flash floods occurring as well, and some tragic news is that there have been some loss of lives and as well as thousands of homes have been damaged as well.
Indeed, 24 people in the central Java province have been reported killed now after the flash floods and torrential rains in part of the province here. And so still many are missing because of the incident. But altogether, officials have evacuated the locals to more safer grounds to escape from the floods, while rescue teams are out searching for 26 missing others.
Nevertheless, during this time, people in Indonesia should stay alert that there could be more rain upcoming and more heavy rains forecasted for the upcoming hours and days as well.
Right, and so far, altogether, looking at all of Indonesia, 16 regions are being hit by floods and landslides. So locals should continue to monitor the situation to make sure that safety, their areas are in safe areas.
ค่ะมาดูกันต่อในข่าวยังเกี่ยวกับอินโดนีเซียเหมือนเดิมนะคะในส่วนของน้ำท่วมฉับพลันค่ะแล้วก็มีการดินถล่มในอินโดนีเซียด้วยนะคะซึ่งมีผู้เสียชีวิตอย่างน้อย24ศพแล้วก็ยังมีการสูญหายของหลาย10คนด้วยทั้งนี้นะคะก็คือบ้านหลายหลังก็ถูกพังลงไปเสียหายไปมากมายเลยก็คือมีการอพยพของประชาชนเป็นการชั่วคราวด้วย
Right, indeed, and hopefully the situation will ease and indeed less damage and less lives taken by the rain and floods. And we'll keep you posted on the situation.
All right, let's turn to some lighter news updates now. Going to Singapore, some good news for those of you who like to travel. Of course, Singapore Airlines will be launching once again a flight to the United States.
Not to mention San Francisco there, as recently we've heard about different airlines canceling their flight to San Francisco, but Singapore here is launching a non-stop one to San Francisco, and it's going to be a second daily frequency service from Los Angeles. Here altogether, the airport itself, Singapore Airlines will operate 2 daily flights to Singapore, one stopping at Seoul first, Incheon Airport, and the other in Hong Kong. So some good news.
That's good news indeed. Well, actually, they did have a flight to the United States before this, but due to the price of course, fuel during that period, about 4 years ago, they had to close down this service. So once again, in about October, this service will be available for passengers once again, and in which the announcement comes days after the launch of the United Airlines San Francisco-Singapore flight. So United Airlines has also come out with a flight directly to Singapore, and so in response to that, of course, Singapore Airlines has also launched a flight as well.
Right, so taking a look at what type of plane it's going to be, the new San Francisco route is going to be operated by the Airbus's A350-900. So this is going to be the longest route for this flight carrier at more than 8,000 miles. That's around 13,600 kilometers. So this direct flight here is going to be quite convenient for flyers who don't want to stop over anywhere or transit, but it's going to be quite a long one indeed. But here you could see 253 seats in a 3-class cabin layout, and is going to be happening on a year-round basis for anyone who makes emergency stops to the States.
So as you mentioned, how many miles or kilometers was that going to be? 8,451 miles or 13,600 kilometers. For those of you who are wondering how many hours that's going to be, that's approximately 14 to 17 hours of flight time.
Wow.
So quite a long time.
Time to get comfortable.
That's right. ก็มาดูกันในส่วนที่ข่าวที่5ค่ะทาง Singapore Airlines นะคะก็ได้เตรียมการเปิดเส้นทางบินตรงไปที่สหรัฐอเมริกาค่ะก็จะมีการบินไปที่ซานฟรานซิสโกนั่นเองค่ะจะเปิดสายการบินเส้นทางนี้วันที่23ตุลาคมนี้ค่ะก็จะใช้เวลาประมาณ 14-17 ชั่วโมงในการบินก็แล้วแต่ทิศทางของลมนั่นเองค่ะ
Indeed, so definitely more options for those planning to visit California and quickly. So taking a long haul, this time extra long haul flight is going to be quite nice indeed. And that wraps up ASEAN Hot Issue for this session. It's time to take a short break. When we come back, ASEAN Calendar up ahead.
พักกันสักครู่ค่ะ
อ
back to ASEAN Challenge. Into ASEAN calendar, lots of colorful events happening around your ASEAN community.
That's right, we have two events coming up or around this time, which is the World Refugee Day and World Yoga Day.
That's good, check them out.
The United Nations World Refugee Day is observed on June 20 each year. This event honors the courage, strength, and determination of women, men, and children who are forced to flee their homeland under threat of persecution, conflict, and violence. People honor the spirit and courage of millions of refugees worldwide on World Refugee Day. It is a day to recognize the contributions of refugees in their communities. Organizations such as Amnesty International and the International Rescue Committee often get involved in various activities for the day. They may include activist protests against using former prisons to detain migrants and asylum seekers, screenings of films about the lives of asylum seekers living in a Western country, organization members visiting asylum seekers in detention to offer moral support, letters or petitions to governments on the treatment of asylum seekers in detention. Some communities dedicate an entire week that includes World Refugee Day to encourage people to think about their lives of refugees and the human right to a secure place to that one can see as home. For many years, many countries and regions have been holding their own events similar to World Refugee Day. One of the most widespread events is Africa Refugee Day, which is celebrated on June 20 in many countries. The UN General Assembly adopted a resolution to express its solidarity with Africa on December 4, 2000. The resolution noted that 2001 marked the 50th anniversary of 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees, and that Organization of African Unity agreed to have International Refugee Day coincide with Africa Refugee Day on June 20. The Assembly therefore decided that June 20 would be celebrated as World Refugee Day from 2001 onwards. This day was designated by the UN High Commissioner for Refugees to bring attention to the plight of approximately 14 million refugees around the world. The UN Refugee Agency's logo is often associated with the day. The colors used are either white on a blue background or blue on white background. The logo features olive branches that symbolize peace surrounding or protecting two hands facing each other, and in the middle a figure of a person protected by these hands. The logo is sometimes featured with the words UNHCR followed by the UN Refugee Agency in smaller text to mark the logo. The UNHCR in Canada used a special World Refugee Day logo that features two figures, one smaller figure on the left and a taller figure on the right. They are protected by brackets on half circle. The words World Refugee Day are placed at the center top of the figures, and 20 June is placed at under the figures at the center. All elements of the logo are the one color, green. World Yoga Day 21st June. International Day of Yoga is also called as the World Yoga Day. United Nations General Assembly has declared 21st of June as an International Yoga Day on 11th of December in 2014. Yoga in India is considered to be around 5,000 years old mental, physical and spiritual practice. Yoga was originated in India in ancient time when people were used of meditation to transform their body and mind. Launching a particular date of practicing yoga all across the world and celebrating as Yoga Day was initiated by the Indian Prime Minister to the United Nations General Assembly. Yoga is very necessary and beneficial for all human beings if it is practiced by all on daily basis in the early morning. Official name of this day is UN International Yoga Day and also called as Yoga Day. It is a worldwide event celebrated by the people of all countries through practicing yoga, meditation, debates, meetings, discussions, variety of cultural performance. International Day of Yoga 2016. World Yoga Day or International Day of Yoga would be celebrated by the people throughout the world second time on 21st of June in 2016 at Tuesday. History of World Yoga Day. Celebrating Yoga Day all over the world as World Yoga Day or International Day of Yoga on 21st of June every year was declared by the United Nations. The declaration was done after the call by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the United Nations General Assembly on 27th of December in 2014. During his address to the UN General Assembly, he called the United Nations General Assembly for adopting 21st of June as an International Yoga Day to get all the benefits of yoga for the people all around the world. Narendra Modi has said during his address to the UN General Assembly that yoga is an invaluable gift of India's ancient tradition. It embodies unity of mind and body, thought and action, restraint and fulfillment, harmony between man and nature, and holistic approach to health and well-being. It is not about exercise, but to discover the sense of oneness with yourself, the world and the nature, by changing our lifestyle and creating consciousness. It can help us deal with climate change. Let's work towards adopting an International Yoga Day. The declaration of International Day of Yoga is the great moment for the Indian in history. It took less than 3 months to be declared as the World Yoga Day by the United Nations General Assembly. Narendra Modi has called for it on 27th of December in 2014, which was finally declared on 11th of December in the same years. It was first ever in the history that the initiative of any countries has been proposed and implemented the UN body within 90 days. This resolution has been adopted under the Global Health and Foreign Policy by the General Assembly in order to provide a holistic approach to the people worldwide for their health and well-being. In order to create a great level of consciousness and positively changing in the lifestyle of worldwide human population, India Prime Minister Mr. Modi has put his views for adopting a day especially for yoga while addressed to the United Nations General Assembly. He asked to the world leaders for adopting International Yoga Day to deal with the declining health because of negative climate change. Especially, he suggests the 21st of June for adopting the International Day of Yoga. It's the longest day in Northern Hemisphere regions as well as of great significance for people in many parts of the world. World Yoga Day celebration. The celebration of the event, International Day of Yoga, is supported by various global leaders. It is celebrated by the people of more than 170 countries, including USA, China, Canada. It is celebrated on international level by organizing the activities like yoga training campus, yoga competitions, and so many activities to enhance the awareness about yoga benefits among common public all over the world. It is celebrated to let people know that regular yoga practice lead to the better mental, physical, and intellectual health. It positively changes the lifestyle of the people and increase the level of well-being. All members, observers, states, United Nations system organizations, other international organizations, regional organizations, civil society, governmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, and individuals get together to celebrate the International Day of Yoga in suitable manner according to the national priorities to raise the awareness about yoga.
There you go. Makes you want to go and practice yoga some more, huh?
That's absolutely correct. All right, we'll be taking a short break now, and coming up next, we'll take a look at what topic we have for the ASEAN interview.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the program. You're watching ASEAN Challenge, and on to the ASEAN interview. We have an interesting topic today about migrants, in which, of course, might face an uncertainty in their future within Indonesia.
Let's go check it out. Migrants stranded on the coast of Indonesia face an uncertain future as they could be pushed back into sea by authorities after failing to embark the boat. Migrants found on the coast of Indonesia face an uncertain future as authorities are slowly pushing their boat back into the waters. This is according to an activist Friday. The boat carrying 44 Sri Lankan migrants, including at least 9 children and many women, limped into the shore of the west coast of Indonesia's Aceh province nearly a week ago after they said their boat engine had malfunctioned. The international director of non-government organization called the Jutanyoy Foundation, Lilian Fan, told Reuters in her own words, even though assurances had been given since 2 days ago by the vice president, instruction was given that they should be allowed to disembark. The latest I heard from my team on the ground is that they're still indeed on the boat in Aceh and that the boat is slowly actually being pushed out by heavy equipment. An attempt by some to jump off the boat to seek refuge on the land on Thursday ended in chaos, with a warning shot being fired by police. Kneeling on the shore, the asylum seekers spoke briefly with officials before they were whisked back onto the green, rusty boat.
Since the shooting incident yesterday, when the women jumped off the boat and a shot was fired into the air by a policeman, since that incident, most agencies have actually been pushed back behind a police line, so they can't get very close to the boat. But from what they can tell, the boat's still there. Refugees are still on the boat. Very little access has been given to international organizations.
Indonesian authorities have been providing medical aid, food and water for migrants, but denied their entry to the country because they say they have no proper documentation.
And we are not very encouraged by what we're seeing in terms of the lack of access that's been given, and we do appeal to the Indonesian government to grant full access, particularly to UNHCR, to be able to process those claims of asylum and to ensure actually that the conditions of these people on the boat can actually be addressed.
The Tamil migrants are believed to be fleeing from deteriorating conditions in northern Sri Lanka and were believed to be on their way to Australia. It's not the first time migrants have landed in Aceh. Hundreds of asylum seekers, mostly Rohingya from Myanmar and Bangladesh, were left adrift in the Andaman Sea last year. Indonesia has provided temporary shelter to over 1,000. Every year, hundreds of migrants attempt the perilous journey on rickety boats from various parts of Asia to seek asylum in Australia or Malaysia. Indonesia is seen as a transit country, but many migrants end up staying there for years because of tight immigration policies in the destined countries. Sri Lankan migrants shelter in makeshift tents on an Indonesian beach while local authorities organize their boat to be repaired. A group of migrants from Sri Lanka had waited in a temporary shelter on an Indonesian beach Saturday while local authorities went about fixing their stranded boat. The boat carrying 44 Sri Lankan migrants, including at least 9 children and many women, had limped onto the shore of the west coast of Aceh nearly a week ago, saying their boat had malfunctioned. A warning shot had been reportedly fired when the migrants tried to disembark. A Sri Lankan migrant, Artika, said she had been living in India for the past 26 years. She said Indonesia was not where the group had wanted to travel to. She spoke to Reuters from a makeshift camp, saying Sri Lankan people go to Australia for help, more than help. An Indonesian politician said authorities were trying to get the Sri Lankan government to decide their fate.
Bekerjasama mungkin berkomunikasi dengan pemerintahan Sri Lanka ya untuk memikirkan nasib mereka, mendata ulang mereka, apakah mereka dikembalikan ke negara mereka ya atau seperti apa, karena tujuan mereka kan katanya mau mencari kerja atau mau pergi ke Australia.
And thank you very much for those insights. And that wraps up the show ASEAN Challenge this week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again very soon next week. For now, สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ